and welcome and happy summer. I hope that all of you are enjoying some time off from teaching. And who knows when you'll see this video, but I know that for me, I used to always love watching curriculum ideas sometime in the early spring and just started to get excited for what was coming. So I wanted to make this video because sometimes math is one of those topics that like is so different for each of your children. So my oldest child, he loves doing teaching textbooks, but I think it's a little bit too easy for him. And so my second oldest, he was the one who got me onto doing or potentially doing the Simply Good and Beautiful math. And once I recognized it clicked for him, I went ahead and got that for my next two youngest children after that. So I'm going to try to make a video for each of those math problems or programs, because it was something that worked so well for our family. We had been using Singapore for the first few years of their math, and I just started to realize I'm like, this is kind of easy. It's not that it's easy for everyone, but for them, I could see they were getting bored and they wanted to do more hands-on stuff. And sometimes it wasn't necessarily applicable to life. They might say like, well, why do I need to learn perimeter? Why do I need to learn about these different things? And so one thing I loved about Simply Good and Beautiful math is that the people who wrote this curriculum did a really good job. They knew what they were doing. They love math, and they brought in real life applications if possible, and often also brought in the Lord into different lessons. So I loved that, there'd be a lesson. And also something really I thought was beautiful was the diversity that was represented in the pictures and in and when I get to the My Math 3 video, you'll see that they go travel all around the world. So they were learning things even just about the rest of the world as well. So with Math 1, they are going to be getting, or you will be getting this and a box. Now, we just used this for the past year, which was 2022 and 2023, and we just finished this up in the spring. My son actually ended up going faster through this, and so I ended up ordering Math 2 and started him on that at the end of April, and he's just flying through it. Like he is in first grade, but he just really excelled in it. He could do it almost by himself, and he really, really loved it. So I'll talk about each one. I felt for myself that I didn't need to have a teacher's answer book for this because the math was simple enough that you could pretty much skim through it and not have to need that extra resource. However, you can print that off if you don't want to buy it, and if you need it. You also, on their website, can download and print these off for free. Now, since it was my first time, I didn't really feel like I could trust doing that myself. And I'm glad that I didn't because I would have messed up. I like that on the Math 1, they have this kind of a binder. They don't have this at the upper levels. So if you're wanting this kind of binder, one option in the higher levels is you could print off and then get this bound at a Staples or something like that. So what I like about this is it starts off pretty simple. And so how it's set up is there's going to be some form of a box here that will be like your introduction box, I guess you could say. And usually in here is going to be like a review activity. So this one says count from 10 to 50. Count by twos from 2 to 30, count by tens from 10 to 100. So again, every single day, there's one of these. You're just checking in with your student. You're checking in how they're doing. Some of these they'll be awesome at, and there may be one or two that you're like, ooh, they still need to practice that. And that's something that you can work through with your own child. And then what you do is there is instruction that's written in blue. So that's going to be like just read it in your head, because it's telling you what you will need or what you are going to be doing. And then the black is what you're going to read to your child. Now, often there'll be these little games that you're going to do together. So like this whole page has a bunch of different games and things that we're going to do together and to explain it together. Often during the games, you will need to get something from this box. Now, interestingly enough, back in the spring, they did a recall for the lids of this because apparently the edges were sharp and the whiteboard can fall off and hurt your child. My whiteboard did fall off, but I just taped it back on, and then I applied for the recall, and I haven't gotten one yet, but they're supposed to be sending new lids. Anyways, inside of this, so you get a whiteboard on the back that's magnetic, which you will use at times, and then there's the clock on the front, which we used a lot kind of towards the other lessons as well. Now, inside in here, we've got I don't know, these are called tangrams. We used to use these, but they're magnetic ones. My son loved these. I'll show you some examples of the activities that we used with these, but most of the time it would be they would have to follow a shape, and they'd have to use these to find out. So when we use these, he loved getting to use those. And then there's two different kinds of dice. One is a right and left. So they're going to get a lot of activities practicing knowing their right hand and their left hand, which I feel like for some students can be really challenging. And then just a general wooden dice as well. Also in this, in Math 1, you're going to be using boats a lot. I think that was like one of their themes. So these boats are wooden. They're pretty good quality. I mean, we used this for a whole year and they didn't get broken or even scratched. On them, you're going to have numbers and different types of boats. So certain activities, you'll use one boat and use it as part of the lesson. Other times, you'll use them for the numbers on them to practice even numbers and things like that. So the boats are pretty cool. Once they get into things like clocks, they have a whole bunch of clocks in here. And again, they color coordinate them. So you're practicing the different half hours, quarter afters. And so the clock activities are actually kind of fun. And then there also are going to be a whole bunch of coins. I'm not going to take them all out, but you've got basically everything up through quarters. So you'll practice all of those. So the math box itself, I thought was worth it because those were some hands-on things that made him a lot more fun for my child. He liked getting to use the things in here, and it made the lesson come more alive for him. Also, though, so in these parts, often you're going to be using the stuff in that box. After you've reviewed and talked about what that lesson's going to be, then they're going to have some practice. So they're going to have, I'm sorry about my camera work here, but there's going to be some review stuff. There's going to be some things to practice on what they are learning that time. So really, in terms of time, the teacher page like this, you could spend 10 minutes, you could spend 20, depending on how your student is doing on that concept. But most of the time, the practice at the maximum was like 6 to 10 minutes at the beginning, especially. So the math overall is pretty short. And again, if you have a child who loves math, then they can go as long as they want to on some of these things. So let me give you another lesson. So like lesson 2 was practicing writing numbers 1 through 5. So again, you're walking through the lesson and having them practice at the beginning and then doing some simple math and then taking that and applying it to a clock and writing the numbers 1 through 5 as well. Here's another example of like just a kind of mental practice activity is to copy the dots over to here and then some simple math down over here. Then I'm just going through a couple of the early ones and I'll get in the middle as well. Oh, here. So then this is a little bit of a longer lesson. So I found there'd be a shorter lesson and then the next day might be a longer lesson, which was good because they felt they needed the practice as well. So this is another thing where they had to copy the grid thing, a little bit more math here. And then here's the example I was saying with those tangrams. So they had to then on that magnetic whiteboard, take those tangrams and make the different shapes in there. So those were really fun. The way it's formatted is it'll go through, I guess you could say 4 quarters. That's not exactly what I'm trying to say, but 4 units that would lead up to an assessment. So I'll show you an example of those as well, but just to kind of give you some flip throughs of some things. And again, my son made it through the whole book, so most of these have been written on. Here's another example of some of the games that were pretty fun. They practiced a lot with calendars and vocabulary with calendars, and I thought that was really unique. And most of the game, you know how sometimes you get those games with your kids for school and you're just dreading them because they might take forever. Most of these games were a blast and you could get them done and still have fun with it. You weren't just like, oh, honey, you keep trying it and go from there. All right. So let me see if I can get to one of the assessments. So this was a neat one too. That's this lesson on doubles addition. They got to, again, practice different things, but then also there was a whole grid that we used as part of our doubles, and we would use those boats that they said before. Another thing I forgot to say, because unfortunately mine are all gone, but at the back of the book, they put in a perforated page of things that you can take out and use during your lesson. So if you are using, like on this one, you would have the 10 blocks. So they'd often have a page in the back where you would you would pull out the ones that you need. So they've already given you all the things that you need. You don't have to print off anything extra. There aren't even any videos that you have to watch along with these lessons. It simply is grab and go, really. I don't think I had to do anything besides pull the, things off the perforated page. There really wasn't a lot of extra stuff. All right, I'm having problems finding the assessment, but I really loved this. Like even things like this. There's a little Noah's Ark story in here with pears and things like that. So they tried to tie in God into the lessons when they could. And then otherwise, though, it's really good math. All right, here we go. So at the end of a unit, they would go through an assessment. And I talked about this in another video as well. This assessment was great. My son actually did really well. So you'll get to an assessment unit and they'll give you a whole bunch of instructions so you won't have to be worried at all. But every part has two colors. So there's a purple and a yellow or an orange. So your assignment to them is to say you will do the purple sections only. So they're going to go through and do the purple sections. So in this case, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 purple sections. Now that sounds like a lot, but in this case, they were writing numbers. They were skip counting by fives, adding on 2 and 3 and greater, subtraction and cents, telling time, counting on and writing numbers 20 to 40, double addition, adding 2-digit numbers, tally marks, number words, counting backward and odds and evens, calendars, and ordinal numbers, all in one assessment. But what's nice is what you do is when they're done with the purple, you go through and you grade it. If they get the purple section right, they're done with that. If they don't get it right, let me find one that he didn't get right. I know he missed one. Okay, so in this one, he either forgot something or just got it wrong. But so in this section, he got some wrong. So then that means the next day of the assessment, you kind of make it into 2 days. Then they have to do what's called the additional practice. So they do this section as a way to show you, oh yeah, I just messed up. Or you can assess they do need extra practice with this topic. So let me see. And then he also ran into some problems. Oh, he filled in the blanks but forgot to read the directions, which said circle the odd numbers. So he had to go through and do that section again. But the rest were great. So he did really, really well with that. So the whole thing, I don't know how many total lessons there are. I don't know. But they just have some really great lessons and pictures. I mean, it's very visually stimulating. I think that he just loved getting to see the different pictures and things. He loved this math so much. He actually would request to do it on his own and more. Like he didn't think he had enough sometimes. So that's why I knew when we got to about April and he was nearing the end, I'm like, he's going to be ready to go to math 2 without any problem. He was just so excited to keep learning and moving forward. So I went ahead and ordered that when there was some sale or something, and it came in and we just jumped right in. So it's been kind of great. Anyways, so I completely highly recommend this math program. I think that it's worth the money. I think, don't quote me on this, I think $44 or so gets you the book and the math kit. Including all the perforated pieces in the back. And then also, you can choose if you want to do the printed off online. So if you just want to get the hands-on box but print off the thing yourself, you can download it for free, which is amazing. So anyways, I'm going to show you now on the website how to do that. And then after that, I'm just going to keep telling you how much I love this math. All right, so here we are with the website for Good and the Beautiful, and you can see there's a whole bunch of different types of things, but I was focusing on math specifically. So you can either start with this free K6 math downloads. It'll give you more information about their math. I'm sorry about the level of noise my children are making at the moment. So you can click on their math 1 and they'll give you some more examples of the different things that I showed you, including some of the clocks and things like that, but the different pictures will walk you through that. Now if you decide to do the free download, this is where you're going to go. You'll be able to find a free download. There you go. You'll just have to enter your email, and their emails don't come that frequently, and they're pretty good overall. So I wanted to show you this just so that you can see the also has some help information on here. So you can find the answer key here. There aren't a lot of other things on there because it really is pretty simple, but there's a bunch of questions and things like that. So let me get to the shopping page. You can see there we go. Okay. Oh, so they've upped their prices a little bit than what I thought before. I'm sorry. So it's $58.98 if you choose the set. And the set, again, is the book and the Math 1 box. And then again, if you could choose to just do them separately or just the math box and then print out on your own the course book. So anyways, that's through the website. And So, in conclusion, thank you for watching. Thank you for being with me as I kind of steer in different directions, but also just really thankful for this math program. I made a huge difference in our family where everyone loved math this year for the first time. So, I'm thankful for that. Have a great